welcome to INNOVYNC Machine Solutions. I'm Pierre Sullivan, owner and managing director of INNOVYNC. For anyone that doesn't know, we specialize in CNC machines and solutions for the manufacture of stone, glass, and advanced materials. After speaking to some clients and colleagues, I have decided to put together a series of video discussions with industry experts. The aim is to give quality, concise information that can hopefully assist everyone get through the crisis, keep our businesses operating, and retain our staff. Please feel free to comment or share your thoughts. Thanks for listening. So our first guest is Mr. Dennis Horne. Welcome, Dennis. You've been around for a long time. Give us a little bit of the background on yourself and your business.
Well, I've been an equipment finance broker for 38 years, specialising in automation, particularly in cabinet making, stone, glass, aluminium windows, flat steel, and also there's other peripheries around that. But that's the main area because I see a lot of similarities between those industries and the types of machines people need to buy. And also over the years, we've noted what machines people buy and who's prospered. So we've got a lot of history there as to who's been successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously there's quite a drama around coronavirus now, and it's affecting businesses. How have you found it you're based in Melbourne, obviously you service all of Australia, but how have you found it down there and across the various industries that you service?
It's affected everybody. There's no one patch that's actually, how would you say, prospering compared to others. Everybody's affected. Because the industries we're focused on are very much building related into construction, everybody's copying it. But some people are, how would you say, changing their payment terms with their customers. So this is a time to really renew and push the renewal button. Some people have torn up their EBAs and are actually using this opportunity to have a good look at their business because they've got accountants doing a lot of work and look at their figures and say, how do we trade out of this? How can we manage our cash flow? What do we need to do to deal with not only redundancies and super and people working on 6-hour days and keeping a good staff around, but how do we strategically borrow to take advantage of the government incentives? And that's probably 50% of my work now. People are coming to us and saying, in the next 3 months, how can we get our numbers right? How can we look at borrowing to take advantage of these government incentives? Which, by the way, there's 2 levels to it, one through to June 2020, and another level is through to June 2021.
Okay,
they're there and for them.
Let's go through those one at a time, Dennis. So let's go through the 100% write-off that you can take advantage of between now and June 30th, 2020. Let's go through that one first.
That's any machine whereby it's up to $150,000 or group of machines up to $150,000, excluding GST. So let's just pick 150 plus GST, it's 165. Now, notwithstanding, you can finance that machine out to 5 or 6 years. You get to write off $150,000, providing it is installed and generating assessable revenue before the end of June 2020, this year. Okay. That is there as an instant write-off. Now, as an example, you might have a $150,000 net profit in your business. You can wipe that out completely, and therefore you don't have that tax that you now have to pay next year. Mm-hmm. And just think about it like this. You take that tax amount you would have paid and apply it to the payments on that machine, and also you get the GST input credit as well. So cash flow wise, it'd be foolish to ignore that possibility of getting that deduction. Now that is an instant write-off, $150,000. Also applies to vehicles and trucks and ancillary equipment. You cannot, unfortunately, go out and buy a brand new Mercedes-Benz and write it off. It's not what it's designed to do. But for machines, but the machines, it's critical to understand, even though the machine might cost $200,000, it doesn't mean you can write off the first 150. Yeah. The machine in its entirety or group of machines, you can have 10 contracts for 150,000 if you like, but the machine limit is 150,000 excluding GST.
Okay, and how is that determined, Dennis? Is that determined by, let's say, individual invoice for each machine? So let's say, for example, one machine, we have one serial number, that machine has to be invoiced, paid in full and operational by June 30th.
Correct. So you could have 3 machines on that one invoice, providing they're identified as an individual machine and a serial number.
Okay.
So to say, for argument's sake, you might want to buy a router or a CNC saw, you cannot say, here's the chassis or the frame of the saw, and here's the actual smarts of the saw. You can't split it up. Okay. It's still a saw.
Yeah.
So, and you might say, okay, we're buying that water filtration system and that CNC saw and that water jet. They could all be on the same invoice.
Yeah.
So any amount over 150, there's a different application to that. You actually get to write off 50%, but you have until June 2021. So that's another incentive that's floating around.
So, and is that to any company, or there's a limit to the turnover of the business?
It's now up to any business turning over 500 million, which would cover a lot.
A lot.
So that has been lifted. That has been lifted.
So it doesn't matter if the machine is $160,000 or $500,000. You can write off 50% of that total value. So if the machine is $300,000 plus GST, you can still write off $150,000 of that.
Correct, 50% of the value of that. And then that creates a new depreciable value in the next tax year, whereby the taxable value is 150 and you go to regular depreciation on that.
Yeah.
So, but the 50% write-off is in addition to the actual depreciation available to it. So it's a great incentive. And so you can sit down and buy all the machines you need for the next 5 years, as people did in late 2009 and 10, and re-equip the whole business and then just reap the rewards for the next 5 to 6 years.
Okay. And so obviously there's a lot of people worried now about the current situation and coronavirus and their business itself. In your experience, you've been around for a long time, as you said, you know, you've gone through SARS, you've gone through the GFC. So what do you say to people now and business owners that might be a little bit cautious about, let's say, investing in machinery now, rather than sitting tight and waiting to see what happens?
Well, I started this business in 1982, and there was a recession back then. And then we had the share market crash in 87. Then we had the recession we had to have, which was 91, 92, and probably stretched into 93 a bit. Then we had the Y2K downturn in year 2000. Then the GFC kicked off in late 2008. And have a guess what? After every one of those periods, business boomed. Yeah. Because there's a drawback in sales, and then those sales don't actually disappear. They kind of go on ice or back into the cupboard. Yeah. Then they come out again. Yeah. And the people that how would you say, manage their cash flow by keeping a bit of powder dry and looking at it and saying, well, what am I better to do? Am I better to employ people and pay overtime? Well, as soon as you start to pay overtime, you're taking money out of your pocket, and that's not helpful. So if you're paying overtime, you should not be doing that. It should be regular hours. So you get the right machines to avoid paying overtime. Yeah. Get back to regular hours and analyse your costs, your labour costs. And those people have actually invested in across the board, whether it's steel or aluminium or glass or stone or cabinet making, those people have got the smart machines and are working regular hours, no overtime, and they've got smart machines. They have got their labour cost as a percentage of sales down below 20%, which is basically what it is in China anyway.
Yeah, and that 20% is the key figure.
That is the.
Let's say to analyze your business, if you can get that figure below 20%, you're doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is available, and I've got heaps of case studies of people are doing it. But that is 20% of the manufacturing wages. Yeah. So there's a difference between administration wages and executive wages, but manufacturing wages. And we see P&Ls that come across our desk whereby the wages are sitting at 35 to 40% of turnover. And you're never going to catch up. You'll never get wage costs to drop per head on people. Yeah. But you can do something about it by getting back to regular hours. And the simple number is, for every $10,000 a month you spend on overtime or reworks or whatever, you can actually borrow about $560,000. Now, $10,000 a month, multiplied out, it's $120,000 per year. that's probably a person and a half or maybe two very unskilled labourers.
Yeah.
But a machine or a suite of machines costing 560 is far more productive than those one and a half or two more people. And it's never going to come in drunk or have a hangover and it'll work no overtime associated, never have a fight with his girlfriend or boyfriend.
Yes.
So looking at that 10,000 a month, or even simplify, let's break it back to 5,000 a month. You can grab a machine for 260,000 thereabouts. And that's, you'll pay for it over 4 to 5 years. So it just depends. So we always look, when we analyse the figures, we look at your current cost structure of wages, rework, overtime.
Yeah.
And then you say, if you have the machine and then you bag a big order, then you can just push that green button that says go without any increase in your overheads or wage costs. And we even have customers who are running their machines, not every day of the week.
That's exactly
One
right.
in particular runs it 1 day a week, and they just do all their cutting and then all the assemblies done on the following days.
Yeah.
And they've pruned their business down. And so when they do have a downturn, all they do is push the red button on the machine and throw a dust cover over it. They haven't got redundancies and all this wage impost there.
And they can do that without changing their overheads, and
Correct.
Increase their production, increase their profit without increasing their overheads at all, because
Correct. And it just gives them more opportunity.
Yeah.
There's more opportunity there. And rather than sort of, when people say, oh, I'll buy a machine and I'll undercut my competition, that's not a good business model. You're better off to buy a machine and put those savings in your pocket and benefit the wealth of your family.
Yeah.
That's got to be the focus.
Yeah.
Now, paying overtime is going backwards. Overtime should not exist in a well-run, functioning business that's got the right equipment.
Yeah.
Most businesses we see that don't have the right equipment are all paying overtime, and they are literally chasing the train that's speeding up down the track.
Yeah.
But those that do put efficient equipment in, overtime disappears. And when they do get a big order, they just literally make massive profits on that, because they've already got their overheads factored across the rest of their business, and they just power up the production on the machine. And even putting on an extra shift or loading the machine that'll actually work into the night without supervision.
Yeah.
So when you come in the morning, there's a whole heap of cut material ready to get going again. So
yeah, and with the advancements in automation and materials handling and the quality of machines that is reliable now compared to what they were years and years ago, you can do that, and you can be confident you can do that. You know, every one of our machines now, we can log on to every single machine, and we're fixing about 90% of the problems online with the machines. You know, so you can go home, you can set your machine up, you can go home, you can set up your camera, an IP camera like we have on our machines. You can set up TeamViewer on your computer, and you can do whatever you want to do at home while you're at home with your family and not sitting in the factory.
Correct.
If you do that with people, you've got 5 people to do the same. As you say, you're paying them overtime, and your overhead is going through the roof. You're making no money
and
on your job.
You're not getting anywhere. You're not going forward. You're marking time. And so there'll always be somebody around the corner who will do something more efficient than you and get the job out quicker. And those people that have changed their business model to not be a race to the bottom on price, but be a responder to an order to get it out in a specified time. They're the ones making the most profit. Because at the end of the day, people can buy machines anywhere, and there's plenty of competition. But if you can change your business model whereby you can focus on, I'm quicker at delivery on the quality is an absolute, that's a given. You've got to have the absolute quality. But if you can say, I'll have that product to you inside 48 hours, you will get more orders, more business, just change it a bit. But if you want to be a race to the bottom manufacturer, always be somebody cheaper than you will do it. And unfortunately, that business model has been proven not to be sustainable.
Yeah, and look, Dennis, this is why I love working with you, with my clients, because you have a holistic approach, you know, and you look at the business as a complete business. You know, you don't just look for a short fix, you know, and we work together with you very well, you know, to make sure that the correct solution is for the customer in the long term, not just in the short term. Of course, there's some big contracts that customers get that they need a machine next week to fulfill that you know, but generally how we work together is we look at what the company is doing now, what they want to do in the future, and how they become more efficient to do that.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And it's also critical to focus on, and the lenders quite often ask the question, who's here to support that machine after it's been installed? And also that the maintenance and service is critical, because we've seen people whose businesses completely failed because they raced off to some other country in the world and they bought a machine because it was cheap and arrived here and it was commissioned. And once the technician's back on the aeroplane, and that's it. And the machine goes down, they can't get the part, the machine's sitting there for 4 or 5 months. Yeah. That can send you broke. And it's critical to get productive machines that are the focus on production. It's all about the output and shifting what you're trying to achieve to focus on production output, not buy a cheap machine because it's cheap for a reason.
Exactly. And if by saving $10,000 now or $5,000 or $25,000 on the price of the machine now can lose you a lot of money in the long run. That $25,000 can get eaten up very, very quickly if your machine is down for a day or 2 days and you can't get service to it.
Correct. Service is critical. Absolutely critical.
Absolutely. And look, that's what our focus is. You know, I come from the service background. I'm an electrical engineer by trade, you know, so I know what it takes, and I know what customers need, and customers, in my eyes, should expect, you know. So very good. How is your customers? I guess what are their focuses now when, I guess, uncertain times? What are you seeing the trend? What are they doing now, and what are they looking to do in the future? I know some of your customers are looking to obviously buy machines or reinvest and take advantage of the stimulus package. What is some of your other customers doing?
Well, some people are looking at alternative sectors and saying, okay, let's try and find another market niche that hasn't presented itself in the past, because we're very busy focusing on this. A lot of people are using this opportunity to training and getting a lot of their employees into other areas of the machine operation. So you're not really limited to 1 or 2 people who are only trained to operate one machine. Let's try and get 6 or 10 people trained to operate those machines. So you can actually get some more production out of your given workforce. And so using this time as training. They're also looking at having a complete rethink. Some people say, oh, it's great, I now own all my machines. But in actual fact, they've got a factory full of old technology that will not take you forward into an area where there's new technology popping up. And unless you're investing constantly in technology, you'll get left behind. So they're reassessing everything and having plenty of time to do it. Yes, everybody's cash flow has been impacted, but the lenders are giving people, 6-month payment holidays, and they're deferring payments to the end of contract. People are not collecting their debts as quick, but that will change. People are reassessing all their payment terms. And we're also spending a lot of time on Zoom talking to customers. How can we help you? How can we look at this? But do more projective analysis of the figures in conjunction with their accountants to say, well, let's look at a 3-year picture. What have we got to do? How have we got to change this? Can we renegotiate with our landlords to get the rent lower? Can we look at the amount of rent we're paying and borrow some money to buy the building, to set themselves up to keep building the wealth? But just focusing on this coronavirus, yes, it's caught everybody off guard. Are we going to be locked down for a month? Who knows? I wish I knew. But let's just focus on the next 8 weeks. Now, when we look at today, it's literally 3 months since we sat down to the Christmas table. And that has gone so fast. And it's every day goes past, we're actually another day closer to things getting better. And the incentives that are out there, and I think people just got to focus on the reality of we can jump up and down, we can have a big hissy fit, just be a bit, and use this opportunity to reassess our whole business, where it's going and moving forward.
And look, I reiterate that, what we got to do in situations like this, and is lean on each other and reach out. And this is why, we had a chat the other day, Dennis, and this is why we decided we'd catch up, because we can share our knowledge to the industry out there and work together, you know, to come up to make sure that businesses are able to open the doors if there is a lockdown or if there is a slowdown. You know, we can try and help businesses as much as we can and share knowledge. You know, and I'll be putting up that people can ask questions. I'll be putting up your contact details, my contact details, and people can contact us directly, ask us any questions they want without charge. You know, and the focus needs to be, let's stay positive through this. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, we don't know what's going to happen. You know, but let's try to keep the key people in our industry together. Let's try to bring everybody out the other side, and then we'll all be stronger as a result.
Yeah, and the thing is that I'm very focused on a long game. That's why we attend trade shows, to find out what's the new technology, what's happening in Europe, and that's where the new technology is coming out of Europe. It's not coming out of China. It's definitely all out of Europe. Yeah. And so going to those trade shows is finding those new machines and talking to the customers and learning what one person in one city is doing and how they're doing it, and I'll be able to carry that as like an extra tool and say, well, have you thought about this? So it's a lot more than just an ugly mug who sells finance. There's a lot more to it. It's an understanding of what successful companies are doing. We've been around long enough to know we've got a huge suite of very successful companies, and there's a lot of very common denominators there. And I'm happy to give anybody the time of day. I can talk, I can email you. I've written down why companies have failed in the GFC. I actually wrote down the customers that did fail, what they didn't do. And some are just so fundamental as not having a cash flow, not having a budget, not having a plan, not even checking the ABN number of a customer that's placed an order and delivered an order, and then the ABN didn't exist. I mean, simple as that. So I've got what not to do, but I've also have a good solid list of what to do. And if you take one of those items out of the list, you're actually creating more risk for your business. So de-risking your business, you're better off to talk to people who've had a lot of experience, such as myself, to say, how do you de-risk your business going forward? Because if you're a cabinet maker or a stonemason, you're very good at that job moving forward. But I'm in the finance business. I'm in the business of looking at thousands of businesses every year. But as a stonemason, you're only looking at one. Through this call,
that's a very important point, and that's why over the next couple of weeks, you know, I'll be talking to people that is an expert in their field. You know, so I'm an expert in machinery supply and solutions. You're an expert in finance. You know, and as a result of that, Dennis, you've seen what manufacturing facilities and production sites can do and shouldn't do. You know, so. You know, there's certainly a lot of people that we can reach out to, a lot of people that is willing to give their opinion and speak out to help businesses, you know, and that's, if we can do that, then let's hope that we can all get out on the other side, I'll say. Okay, thanks very much for your chat, Dennis. It's been I could sit here and honestly I could talk to you all night as usual, but we'll wrap it up, and for sure in the next couple of weeks we'll have another chat and see where we develop. And for now, stay safe, keep your distance, and keep washing your hands.
Likewise, and it's thank you for inviting me to this. I really appreciate it, and I do appreciate working for you. And stay safe, and let's come out the other side of this stronger and bolder, and keep marching on.
Exactly. All right, thanks.
See you later.